Hey, I have a question for you.
What?
What's the best lens in wedding photography according to you?
Well, that's a tricky one. I believe 35, no, 2470. No, I won't be able to do candid. Actually, there is no one best lens for wedding photography, is what I believe.
And what do you mean by that?
Now, to know what I mean, you have to watch this video.
Let's watch this.
Hello everyone, I welcome you all to my channel. It's Nitin Arora. And today we are going to talk about one very common question that people ask me while I do my webinars, workshops, or even on my regular social media. What's the best lens for wedding photography? And my answer to this is there is no one best lens. There is a team of lenses which you make depending upon your preferences and style of shooting. As we all know that wedding photography these days is unique. It is a combination of several genres of photography like editorial, fashion, portrait, macro, family, and sometimes even travel photography. So there is no single lens that can fulfill our needs. Shooting an Indian wedding is the most skillful job, I would say, as compared to the weddings that happen in West. Most weddings in the West are day affairs. Typically a day ceremony followed by an evening reception with 100 to 150 packs maximum. Whereas Indian weddings go on for 2 to 6 days on an average with more than 250 to 500 packs and even sometimes more. So as a photographer, you will be expected to deliver stunning images even in the worst conditions, where you will have to cover a grand entry of the bride and groom with hundreds of people around them, clicking their photos and capturing Instagram stories with their hashtags. A bride wants something different while just sitting in a dark room. A bride and groom is surrounded with all the relatives, wants a group picture in a small space where it's sometimes impossible to do even a solo shot. And we all know how it feels that time. But always remember, once the event is over, no one is going to remember all these situations. Everyone would expect brilliant shots which you had clicked. So in different situations like these, there is no single lens that can be crowned as the best wedding photography lens. Now coming on to what to look for when you want to choose any lens and make a decision to buy it. There are some important factors to keep in mind while choosing lenses for wedding photography. Now, number one is the budget. This is the primary and one of the most important factors while you look for options in the market, as this will narrow down your funnel. For example, if you have to buy a wide angle lens and have a budget of more than a lakh, then I would suggest you to go for 2470 f2.8 rather than buying a 24105 f4, which allows you to shoot in low light with more depth of field. The next one is genre of photography. Figure out what interests you the most and then decide which lens you should go for. Reason being, every genre of photography works differently. For example, in wildlife and sports, you would require more of telephoto lenses like 400, 600 or 800 mm. Whereas in landscape, you would require more of ultra wide and wide angle lenses. If you are more into portraits or streets, then you would require prime lenses like 35, 50 or 85 mm. But if you are into weddings or fashion or advertising, then you would require a team of zoom and prime lenses. So it's very important for you guys to know what do you like shooting the most and which genre you want to pursue your career in. The next one is the camera body. Buying any lens depends on the camera body that we use. Is it half frame or full frame, DSLR or mirrorless? Because if we are using half frame body, then you can't obviously opt for EF lenses as they have a large image circle. The same way RF lenses, which are meant for mirrorless cameras, can't be used on a DSLR body. So do your research properly. The next one is location or venue. Now, location plays a prominent role while doing wedding photography. A photographer will be able to create a beautiful photograph with the correct equipment in almost any location, with an eye for picking out what will look fantastic from behind the lens. Knowing about any location or venue of the event can help you choose the right focal length. For example, if it's a destination wedding where you would need a wide angle zoom lens like 1635 or maybe a 1535 to capture the essence of the location with decor. Or if it's a small wedding in a banquet where even a prime lens like 35 or 50 would be sufficient. The next one is your shooting style. One thing you need to figure out as a photographer is your shooting style. If you are more into candid, then prime lens like 35 50, 85, 100 or a 70 200 would be apt for you. Whereas if you do more of traditional photography, then lens like 24-70, 24-105, 17-40 should be the best suitable options for you. Whereas if you are inclined toward a photojournalistic approach, then you should have zoom and prime both. The next point is figuring out space. The spaces you are working with will play a huge part in your lens choice. For instance, while the bride and groom are getting ready, the 35 would be a fun focal length to shoot with. But if you have enough room to back up, the 50 might be a better choice on a full frame camera to give you more depth of field. The 24-70 would also be a good choice if there is more space and you would want to add more people to your frame. If you do more of Western or Christian weddings, then you must be aware that some churches require you to stay no closer than the last row of guests. So obviously in that scenario, a long lens or a telephoto lens would be a best one for you. Whereas some churches are more liberal in letting you move around and allow you to come in closer without making noise. So in that case, you can even go for prime lenses, as that would be a best suitable option for you. The next one is size of an event. If it's an intimate or a big fat wedding, what's the number of gathering? Looking at the current pandemic scenario where it's a lockdown in the entire country and the guidelines won't allow more than 50 or 100 people max, you can cover a wedding like this with two lenses which are 24-70 and 85 But if you talk about a big fat wedding which has more than 300 or 500 or more than 1000 packs sometimes, you will have to carry a few options of focal length with you. The next one is crew size. Now before you go to any shoot, always remember the team size and their allocation. Always look out if you are shooting solo or you have a second shooter or have a full-fledged team. For example, if the bride is making a grand entry, you can use 85 prime for her candid shots, whereas your second shooter can take 24-70 for traditional shots. But one thing you need to remember always is to take different angles and perspectives. So always position your team accordingly and brief them prior. The next one is availability of light. Now if you're working in low light, choose 50 with 1.2, or if the light is enough, you can even use 24-70, or if you have external flashes or lights, then you can even go for 24-105 with f4 maybe. So people don't generally think about this point, but this is a very important point, which is if you are carrying or shooting with an assistant or not. So sometimes carrying more than two lenses is not feasible for an individual. If you have an assistant, you can carry a few more options of zoom and prime with you, as it is quite easy to change the lens as per the requirement. So after looking at all my images, I am sure you can now make the right and best decision as that which lens is best for you, keeping all the factors in mind. So it's time to go and buy a lens, guys. Also, one suggestion that I would like to give you all is that if you are starting your career in wedding photography, just buy one zoom like 24-70 f2.8 if your budget allows, or maybe a 24-105 which is a kit lens, and one prime lens like 50 or 85 and once you start earning a decent amount, start investing that money to your lenses. In the worst scenario, if you don't have any money to invest right now, then you can even start taking projects by renting out the lenses initially. And then once you start shooting, buy a lens that fits your camera body, wedding photography style, and the budget. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope I have cleared this doubt about what's the best lens for wedding photography. Also, I'll be making another video very soon where I will talk about what all lenses do I carry in my camera kit. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's Nitin Arora, and please like and share my videos if you find them worthy. Also, do let me know which lens do you like the most and why in my comment section below. I would really appreciate that. See you all in the next video. Till then, be safe and keep shooting.